All right, guys. Appreciate you coming. I know some of you guys know me, some of you don't. I know it's like your 4-day passport Ranger School. I know what you're going through. I've done it 3 times. Like I had to restart Ranger School a few times. So I know like some of you probably don't want to be here. You probably hate my guts, and I apologize for that. But when I was going through Ranger School, Colonel Puckett talked to my class before I last went, and some of the things he told me, like during those moments in mountains, those moments in Florida, I rethought about a lot of the things he told me. So hopefully I can give you a new perspective today. Hopefully some of the things I tell you sticks, so that way you can use it to help yourselves. Obviously I'm not Colonel Puckett. I'm nothing special. I'm very average. All right, but I'll do my best. I'll quickly write up the two lessons I learned most during my story. Probably none of these markers work, but all right, attack. And then mission, mend me. Those are the two lessons I learned during my fight with cancer. And I'll hit back on these as I tell my story. So hopefully you can use these two lessons and it'll make you extremely successful. So I graduated West Point in May of 2014, and I was part of a pilot program where they sent infantry officers to Ranger School before IBULC. So I went to RTAC, graduated RTAC in July, and reported to Ranger School July 21st, 2014. During RAP week, or actually during RTAC, I noticed I had some like medical concerns, some swelling, and some other symptoms. I plugged into WebMD, trying to diagnose myself, and it came up with like a million different things that it could be. I didn't want to go to the hospital because I didn't want to lose my Ranger slot. I was too naive, too stubborn. So I went to Ranger School anyway, and during RAP week, I got through, I think, 2 days. I had an 18 Delta, so a Special Forces medic who I met at RTAC. He was in my squad at Ranger. So I was having him kind of monitor me and see, like, am I good to keep going? Do you think this is bad? Because, again, I didn't want to go to the medics. I was like, whatever, I'll suck it up. Ranger School's not too long. I'll make it to the end. After a couple days, he finally pulled me aside and was like, look, it's not getting better, and I've had this idea of what it might be, but I didn't want to scare you. I think it's cancer. You should go to the medics. So, again, that night, I turned myself into the medics. They rushed me to the hospital. Sure enough, it was stage 1 cancer, so I underwent surgery. Simple surgery, no big deal. Came back to IBULC the next day and said, hey, look, I want to go back to Ranger School if I'm healthy. I had to wait 2 weeks to get the blood tests and like more lab work to see if the surgery was effective and whether or not the cancer was fully gone. So during those 2 weeks, obviously, like extremely fearful, not knowing the road ahead. And those are some of the feelings you're going to feel when you're at Ranger School. You're going to be afraid. You're not going to know what's next. You're not going to know if you're going to recycle. So you're going to feel a lot of the same fears. So again, my fight with cancer was the best training I got for Ranger School. And a lot of you will understand the same emotions I felt while you go to Ranger. It came back that the cancer was gone, surgery was effective. So Ranger School was nice enough to let me go back. So I went back in September, 5 weeks after the surgery, literally like just got the stitches out. You can tell everyone in this room, I guarantee, is better physically than I am. I'm not very big, not very strong, not very fast. And I went to Ranger School 5 weeks after cancer and made it through RAP week. You guys are going to be successful. Like RAP week is too easy. Ranger School is too easy. You don't have to be a physical stud to get through. It's literally all mental. If you want your tab, I promise you you're going to get it. That's all you have to do is want it. So September, I start Ranger School. I get through RAP week. I get through Darby, and I pass Darby phase. But because I'm a cancer survivor, I have to give blood every month, do tests, make sure I'm still clean. So during my 8-hour pass, I get pulled aside. They tell me, hey, the cancer's back. It's now spread to your lungs and your abdomen. It's now stage 4. So I get medically dropped again. During that moment, sitting out at Penny Aid Station at Ranger School, which is an awful place. If you ever, hopefully none of you see Penny Aid Station, because it's not a good sign. And I sat out there, and I've never felt so low in my life. I've never felt so defeated. Like most of you are probably athletes. You get to a championship game and you lose a close one. That's how I felt. I didn't know which way the sky was. I just sat there and thought about how could this happen to me? I fought so hard. I felt like I deserved to keep going to Ranger School. I'd been tested once. Why am I being tested again? And then you get new fears. Now you're like, okay, well, I had surgery once. Am I going to survive this next time? If it came back once, what's going to stop it from coming back over and over again? And again, now I'm out of Ranger School. So now I've wasted a bunch of time. I just got the hell beat out of me for no reason, and I'm still losing. So trying to pick myself up after that was impossible. I could not pick myself up. I needed the friends, family to get me through that one. IBULC was nice enough to let me go home for medical leave knowing you can't go through chemo alone. So they sent me home to be with my family. I spent 3 months going through chemo. It's 5 hours a day of just sitting in a chair getting this poison pumped into your body. Doesn't hurt in the moment, but those days, like as it goes on and on, it just beats you down. One day I was just standing there, and my brother's like, "Hey, you're shedding a lot." So I ran my hand through my hair, and it just all fell out. Physically, you watch yourself deteriorate. Eyebrows fall out, like you get pale. Um, Literally lost all physical ability. Near the end of it, I was, at the bottom of the stairs trying to get upstairs, and I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk up the stairs. And there were moments then when I was in mountain phase, and I'm sitting there at 3 a.m. on a long walk, looking up to the top of the mountain, like, no way. There's no way I'm getting up this mountain. And I thought back to those days where I sat at the bottom of the stairs, looking at 12 stairs, and realizing I couldn't get to the top. So when you get to those moments in mountains, in Florida, wherever, you're going to hit those moments where you're going to tell yourself, no way. And I can tell you from my experience, the body will go forever. Like your mind is going to shut off long. You guys know it. Your mind will shut off before your body does. And I'm telling you, like, by the time I finished chemo, I was hospitalized for a week because I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. Again, good preparation for Ranger School. So I had a huge advantage actually being a cancer survivor, not going to lie. But so I was hospitalized because I needed IVs in order to keep me hydrated and to get me food, to keep me nutrient, maintained so I could survive and finish my chemo. And there were days when I told the doctors, like, I can't do chemo today. Like, I physically will not survive if you give me chemo. And they forced me to do it. And then there's those moments in Florida where I'm sitting there, I'm like, guys, I can't carry this 240. Like, I just can't. And they'll look at you and be like, you have to do it. And so, again, you're going to rely on everyone else, and you're going to push yourself way beyond the limits. And it's what you have to do, because if it's not you, then it's them that's going to struggle. So trust me, your body will not fail you. You're going to feel like you have nothing left in the tank. But I've seen what it's like to be on the edge of death when the chemo completely broke me down to where I couldn't stand on my own 2 feet without someone helping me, and the body still had more to give. So you're in the best shape of your lives right now. Ranger School is too easy. Don't ever tell yourself, don't ever even let that cross your mind that you have nothing left in the tank, because the tank will never get empty. I promise you. As long as you're alive, the tank will not be empty. So when I finished chemo, I had one more surgery to take this little port out of my chest that ran a tube down into my heart. That's how they administer the chemo. And after that, I was facing a medical discharge. The Army probably should not have let me back in. I was completely out of shape. I had no hair. I was about as ugly as you could possibly be. And I started looking for alternative ways to serve, because obviously I'd racked up hundreds of thousands of dollars in chemo and medical bills that the Army had to pay. So I wanted to keep serving the country to pay that back. So started looking at some civilian opportunities. Long story short, finally I just decided that I didn't want to be older, and I didn't want to be telling my kids, how to get through tough times, and then look back in my own track record and realize that I let Ranger School get away. To realize that the cancer beat me because it took away the career I should have had, or the goals that I wanted to accomplish. So finally I called up 211. I asked if I could come back. They were nice enough to put me into IBOLC. So I came back 2 weeks after chemo, and I suffered through IBOLC. Guys were trying to get me to do hill sprints up a hill. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I mean, I was pathetic. Like, doing 10 push-ups was awful. And friends carried me and got me back into shape. And after IBOLC, went to Ranger School. They were nice enough to somehow let me back in for a third time. And actually, right before I was supposed to go to IBOLC, I was going to IBOLC June 21st. On June 10th, I got a phone call saying that my blood test had failed, because, again, I do blood every month. So they said my blood test had failed, the cancer's back. So here I am, like, thought I had won again. I was on top of the world, beat cancer twice, finished with IBOLC, and I was about to go to Ranger School and crush it. And I get another phone call from the doctor saying the cancer's back. So at this point, I've done surgery, I've done chemo, there's nothing you can do for me. Like, it's just a time bomb, I'm going to die at some point. So I went back to my apartment that day and literally just cried. I thought September 26th was when I was med dropped the second time. That was the lowest point in my life. Nothing was harder than June 10th when I got that phone call saying that it was back again. Because no matter how hard you fight, you feel like you're always going to lose. So I just sat there on the ground crying, like, so broken. There was nothing anyone could have done for me. Called my family, I let them know. They break down in tears, and we all just kind of accept the fact that, like, good fight, but you lost. Luckily, it came out, a week later. I did more testing. It came back that it was a false positive. So that doctor, thankfully gave me the scare of my life. And went to Ranger School June 21st, and I was fortunate enough to get straight through. So let me hit back on these two things. So I learned attack because when you're diagnosed with cancer, I didn't want surgery, I didn't want chemo, but again, you're left with no alternative. Like people say, oh, you're tough for having endured that. Like, what was I gonna do? Die? I had no other. There's no alternative. So attack every single day. And if I go in there and I go to chemo with this mentality, this defensive mentality, like it's only 5 hours, I can do it. Then I'm sitting there counting down. It's only 5 hours. If you do that at Ranger School, it's only 62 days. That's the wrong mentality because then you're putting like, I only have to endure this much. You're giving Ranger School or you're giving the cancer the advantage because they have the upper hand and you're just trying to survive. That's the wrong mentality, especially for us as infantrymen. We have to attack everything. So I'd go into that chemo and be like, I'll sit in this chair all day. I'll do whatever it takes. Like, I'm going to attack all day. When you go to your PT test on Monday, and don't ever tell yourself it's only 49 push-ups. It's only 49. Hell no. Get up there and be like, I'm going to get down here. I'm going to do 1,000 push-ups. I'm going to make this RI count to 1,000 because I know he's going to make my life hell for 62 days. So attack every second of the day. Don't ever play defensive. Again, if you were an athlete at some point, you know what it's like when you get a lead and you start playing defensive, you give up on the attack, the team always comes back and beats you. Do not ever play defensive. Attack every second of Ranger School. Always maintain that aggressiveness, and you're going to crush it. As far as the mission, men and me, that's the priorities you should have. The mission always comes first, then your men or your fellow Rangers, and then you come last. So for me, my mission was to get my Ranger tab. That's what the Army was paying me to do. They're paying me to be an infantry officer. You're getting paid to be an infantry officer. It's expected of you to have a Ranger tab. That's your mission right now. Nothing comes before that. For me, I was unfortunate. I had to fight through two fights with cancer. Am I going to sit there and feel sorry for me? No. I could have gone to my unit without a Ranger tab. Like, I had a legit excuse. I didn't finish Ranger School because I got cancer. Then my soldiers are what? They're going to feel sorry for me? Like, yeah, I had a legit excuse, and no one's going to blame me for not having a tab, but who wants their soldiers to feel sorry for them? The mission is to get your Ranger tab and do whatever it takes to get that tab. And when you're at Ranger School, you're going to be given a mission of, say, do a raid. For that entire day, your mission is to successfully eliminate the enemy on that raid or whatever the mission objective is. And that is what you have to do. Your guys are going to be hungry. They're going to be tired. They're not going to be able to move. Sometimes it's going to be painful. The mission has to get accomplished. And that's what I learned during cancer. That's what I learned at Ranger School. So when you're sitting there and, your guys don't want to march up the mountain, like, yeah, you're going to feel bad for them, but always remember your priorities is the mission, the men and me. Once you accomplish that mission, then go to priority number 2. Your men, let them get the sleep. Let them get the food. Make yourself suffer more so that way they can, in turn, have an easier day. And I promise you, they'll pay it back. But if you maintain that priority list, you're going to be extremely successful. So don't ever look at the hardships or don't say that something can't be accomplished just because everything goes wrong. So I guess that's the perspective I want you guys to have going into Ranger schools. Don't expect everything to go right, but know that when everything goes wrong, even when the worst things in the world happen to you, you're still going to be successful. And that's how you should be confident in that. So when you're sitting here, some of you in this room are probably like me. I went into Ranger School nervous as hell, thinking, I don't want to fail this. I don't want to come back. And every day was a nervous grind of wondering if you're good enough. I don't want you guys to have to go through Ranger School like that because that's the wrong mentality to have. You should go into it extremely confident because you have everything you need to be successful. And even if everything you need to be successful is taken from you, a lot of it was taken from me, you're still going to be successful. So you should have all the confidence in the world. You should be relaxed, and you should just enjoy it. So I hope that my story can give you that perspective so you have a different perspective than what I had. And just know that maybe it'll be 62 days, maybe it'll be 90. It doesn't matter. You're going to get your tabs, and you're going to be successful as long as you want it. If you don't want it, then you're just lying to yourselves and playing the game. But you're all here. You all proven to yourself. You already shaved your head. Like, you're committed. Go ahead and do it and take care of business and attack every day. That's my story. If anyone has any questions, I promise to always give you guys the honest opinion. I'm not here to tell Ranger war stories or anything like that. If any of you guys are nervous about certain days or want to know rumor control about what Ranger's really like, feel free to ask all the questions. If you don't want to be, the guy who asks the question and keeps your buddies here longer on a Friday, I'll stick around afterwards and I'll ask that question. But I want you guys to have the truth about Ranger School so that way you can have the full confidence and make it through, and not be worried about anything, because I promise you guys are all going to succeed.